Welcome, Volunteers for Israel Educates. This today is episode 168.
Okay, so I will start and about the Kotel. The Kotel, which is the wall, the Western Wall. Here we go. So, as we all know, this wall, this particular wall, by the way, I don't know if everybody is aware of the fact that the word Kotel is a beautiful ancient word for a wall, just wall. So I'm sitting now in a room with 4 ktelim, but of course, if I just talking about my walls, I will say the modern Hebrew word, which is kir. And the kotel is the kotel, which is the wall. And that wall is so special, of course, because according to the Midrash, the Holy Shekhinah, the holy presence of God, had never moved from the Western Wall. That's what the Midrash say. It is true, though, that apparently the Midrash was not concerned, not talking about the Western Wall as we are familiar with it today. I mean, the Midrash apparently was talking about the Western Wall of the temple itself, which used to be on the Temple Mount, that temple which was built by King Herod the Great and then ruined by the Romans during the Great Revolt. But most people don't really make this distinguishment. I mean, most people who would come to the Kotel and place a note in the Kotel, and I'm sure if you've ever been to Israel, this is something you've done, maybe for others as well, but this is such a basic thing. And most people who would come to the wall and place a note and pray and cry, they will recall this sentence of the Holy Shekhinah never moved from the Western Wall, even though the Midrash was talking about a different wall which does not exist. I mean, it's a very common mistake when we refer to the Kotel as the last remnant of the temple. Well, it's not the last and not the temple, because it's not the Western Wall of the temple, but rather the Western retaining wall. And then we have 3 of them survived, and the Northern Wall, which is, well, partly it did not survive, partly it did survive, but it's covered, it's underground, it's invisible, and it's within the Muslim quarter. So I don't know if we will ever have archaeological excavations to see the Northern Wall, but part of it is definitely there. But this other way, sometimes reality is not that important. Actually, quite often reality is and no matter if we're talking about religion or politics. So it is the Western Wall, HaKotel HaMa'aravi, and this is the one which is associated with the Shekhinah, and therefore we have people placing notes. Now, well, you did do that yourself, probably. Well, if you've never done it, so you know all about the tradition. I don't know if you're familiar with the other tradition, which is actually removing the notes from the wall. And what you see here on this photo is the action. I mean, people, they have white shirts with the word gniza on the back. Gniza means something which will be hidden and stored. This is the meaning of the Hebrew word gniza. And every piece of paper, every note, every text which might have the name of God in it, okay? This is the definition. Traditionally would refer to the Torah scrolls, to the mezuzah, to the tefillin, but whatever piece of paper which might have the name of God on it should not be just thrown away, because you cannot just dump the name of God. And if you think of it, so that might make sense. So since we don't know what's written in the notes, and maybe probably it will have the name of God in it, so we don't throw it away. We need to put it in a gniza. So twice a year, before the high holidays, before Passover and Rosh Hashanah, so that's approximately every 6 months, people would come to the wall and clean it up. Quite a few people ask me, when we approach the wall and people want to leave a note, so there's always a question, but will I find room for my note? And the question is, yeah, well, probably chances are you will. Worst case scenario, just put it on the floor. And that's because even though the estimation speaks of over 1 million notes placed in the wall every single year, there's still room, because twice a year we remove the notes and you see the rabbi supervising the action. And then these notes are taken to the cemetery, to the ancient Jewish cemetery of Mount of Olives. And this is they will be gnuzim. This is where they will be stored forever and ever. And nobody, of course, reads these notes except of God. So before we actually talk about the Kotel, which is, again, one of the 8 retaining walls of the Temple Mount, as it was built by King Herod the Great. So let's take a look at the Temple Mount, at the beautiful Temple Mount with the golden dome of the mosque, of the Dome of the Rock, which is believed to be where the temple was, the second temple, and prior to that, the first temple. And both are located on top of the stone, the foundation stone, the rock of creation. So you can see the golden dome, of course, right in the center. And the wall which is in front of it, the closest one to us, the one sort of down below the slide, this is the southern wall. This is the southern wall. And so we can at the top of the slide, this is the western wall, which is 1,600 feet approximately on the west. You can see that this is the longest wall, and the whole thing is located 740 meters above sea level. The
Julia, your sound is going in and out, so we actually can't hear you right now. Julia, we can't hear you right now. The sound is...
Can you hear me?
Now I can, yeah.
Okay, sorry. So just a brief, historical review. It all started with the rock of creation, the rock of foundation, the first one, which is believed to be created by God, the very beginning of the book of Genesis. The binding of Isaac took place on that rock, and therefore the very first temple to one God in heaven was built by King Solomon, the son of King David, shortly after he was anointed and became a king. And this is what we believe, and according to the descriptions in the Bible, this is what the temple of King Solomon looked like. From the first temple period, we have quite a few finds. 2 of them are right here in front of you. You can see a seal. You see a stamp which says to the king of Ziph, desert of Ziph, which is located just south of Hebron, a place where King David was hiding for a while. And here we have a piece of, speaking of VFI plus archaeology, where you can excavate Jerusalem and find stamps and seals and coins and jewelry. So quite a few years ago, during archaeological excavations just near the Kotel, this piece of pottery was found with the seal, with a stamp of the king of Ziph, which is literally like, hey, from the Bible, and lots of jars, again, from the first temple period, which were found near the southern wall. The first temple, the Temple of Solomon, was destroyed by the Babylonians, and after 70 years later, the Jews who came back from the Babylonian exile, led by Ezra and Nehemiah, they built the second temple, the temple of Shavei Tzion, those who came back to Zion. And again, this is very appropriate to mention them because next week we will be celebrating Hanukkah. I hope you will all light Hanukkah candles. This is my favorite holiday. And of course, we are celebrating the purification of this second temple, this temple which was built by the Shavei Tzion in the 5th century BCE. And then King Herod the Great, who loved things to be big and beautiful, he decided that the temple is not big enough, it's not beautiful enough, not impressive enough. Hey, let's do better. And therefore, he surrounded the top of the Temple Mount, Mount Moriah, by 4 retaining walls and placed a platform which is still there. This is the platform of the 20 soccer fields, and built the temple. And this is the temple which was ruined by the Romans, which is usually called the Second Temple, even though in reality it is the Third Temple. But let's not get too complicated. This out of the way, the Western Wall, just like any other walls of the Temple Mount, did not exist before King Herod the Great. So there was the first temple, and then there was the second temple of Ezra and Nehemiah, and no wall. The walls were added later because King Herod wanted to create a bigger platform for a bigger temple. So whenever we speak of the walls, and specifically the Kotel, we can talk about it only starting from the 1st century CE. BC, of course, 1st century BCE, times of King Herod. The Great Jewish Revolt started in 66 CE. This time, the temple was ruined, Jerusalem was destroyed, and after the revolt was suppressed, the Romans stamped coins, and this is probably the most famous coin which was made back then. I don't know if you can read what it says, but it says in Latin, English letters which you can read, Judea Capta. Judea Capta, captive, slaved and ruined. And you may be able to see a date palm right in the center. Date palm was always associated with the kingdom of Judea. And 2 people. One, a lady sitting down with her head down, apparently sad and crying, and a guy, handsome, strong, a fighter. And this is the Roman soldier who besieged and ruined Jerusalem. And this is the end of the Second Temple period. And this is the end of the independent, more or less independent Jewish state for many years to come. What you see here now is the old city as it looks like today, with the 4 quarters, contemporary 4 quarters, and the shape of the Temple Mount, with the Western Wall being on the left. So from now on, we will be talking about the Western Wall only. And I want here, I hope you can see my mouse, left and below the rectangle of the temple itself. So when we speak of the Kotel, we usually refer only to a small part out of the entire Western Wall. And this is important because now I want us to discuss maybe the past and present and maybe future of the entire Western Wall, not focusing only on the 88 meters, which are the place we usually pray. This is the model of the Second Temple period. the second temple on the Temple Mount, which is to be found in the Western Wall tunnels. And the wall below, this is once again, this is the Western Wall, the entire length of the Western Wall, most of which is invisible today because it's hidden by the Muslim Quarter. And this yellow rectangle down there, this is the part which is exposed. This is the only part of the Western Wall which we usually refer to when we speak of the
Julia, we can't hear.
red rectangle is part which is open to men only, and this is what it looks like. So this is the inner and more or less hidden part of the Western Wall, which is visible from the temple tunnels tour. The wall was built and rebuilt and restored and changed, and it got to look what it looks like today, more or less, in the period of this gentleman. And this is, of course, Suleiman the Magnificent, the Ottoman Sultan, the same one who was the conqueror of Jerusalem in terms of its shape. I mean, the Ottomans became the landlords of Jerusalem and the entire land of Israel before he was a sultan, but he was the one who built the walls which surround and define the old city. And he was the one who contributed a great deal to the wall itself. Today, there are 7 gates to the Western Wall, 7 gates total, and only one of them is open for non-Muslim. And this is the gate which is down here, the lowest, meaning the southern gate. And this is the Mughrabi gate. We will be back to it, or better to say, to the access to the Mughrabi gate. If you ever been to the Temple Mount during the last, well, whatever it is, since 1967, so you were ascending of the wall. You can see that down below we have the original, the Herodian layers, the Herodian stones from the 1st century BCE, and above that we have the Umayyad dynasty, which is 7 or 8 centuries CE. Some of it was added and fixed and removed and fixed even later. And then the upper part, which is, it's very easy to distinguish because you see that the stones are much smaller and simpler. I mean, it seems like, we make progress in history, but we experience degradation of the size of the stones. So the upper part was added by the Muslim only in the 20th century. In the very end, the very upper layer, just one row of stones. This is the one which was added during the British rule. That's what the wall looked like in the 19th century, according to the paintings and photographs we have from that period of time. Do you see anything? I mean, there are 2 things which are very different. I mean, very different on that photo, comparing to what we saw before, what you all saw when you were visiting the wall. Well, 2 things. One, the plaza, the big white open square does not exist. You see that there is, well, on the right, you see that it's like a little street. It was a little street. It was only about 10 feet wide. So the Kotel is on the right, and the wall of a private house is on the left, a tiny little space, and that was the only access to the wall. No other access at all. And the other, difference between the Kotel today and the Kotel back then that men and women are praying together. You see that, right? There is a lady here on the right with a child. There is a gentleman right behind her. There is a gentleman on her left-hand side, and we can see on the painting on the left. So men and women were praying together, and that was the case for centuries in a row. By the way, we always tend to think that the Kotel was the holiest place for the Jews forever and ever, right? It's something so obvious that we don't even question ourselves. Yeah, the Kotel was the holiest ever since the temple was ruined, or maybe ever since the Jews were not allowed to pray on the Temple Mount. So in reality, the Kotel became holy and special much, much later, actually pretty late in history. As we look at the descriptions, the writings, the manuscripts of the Jewish pilgrims and non-Jewish as well, the earliest one we have is from the 4th century CE, written by a Christian pilgrim called the pilgrim or the traveler from Bordeaux. He was French, maybe that was she. Actually, probably she was a French pilgrim, but we don't really know. We don't know the name. Anyway, starting from the 4th century CE and up until, well, today, we have people traveling to Jerusalem for different reasons. Religious, economical, political, and people love to share their experience. So as we read, we see that before the 17th century, there was nothing special to the Western Wall. We have descriptions of Jews praying all over the temple and crying over the destruction of the temple and so on, but nothing special was mentioned regarding the Western Wall before the 17th century, and then it became stronger and stronger, and by the 19th century, the Western Wall was the Kotel, was the special and holy place for the Jews, just the way it is today. But again, people would pray together. Just 2 more photos for you to see how little was the access to the Kotel. You see on the right and photo, bunch of people gathering together, and the southern part full of garbage, buckets. It's even hard to say what it is, but obviously there is no access to the wall. And you see on the left again how small and narrow was the street leading to the Kotel, unlike the open plazas today. Praying together or not together, I mean, today we have the separation, we have the mechitza, and it's even difficult to imagine the Kotel without this mechitza. Well, this is something I will be back to it soon. Just again to keep in mind that it was not always like that. On the photo on the left, you can clearly see that, again, men and women are praying together. I mean, well, women are on the right and men are on the left, but there's nothing in between them. And actually, one of the reasons, or at least, the trigger for a Arab revolt against the British and against the Jews in the same time, which started in 1929, deadly Arab uprisal against the British with a lot of Jewish victims. The trigger to it, sounds so weird, but the Jews decided to put a mechitza at the Kotel for Tisha B'Av. And that made the Arabs so upset because, as you might know, the Arabs have very special feelings to the Kotel as well. The Kotel is called by the Muslims El Burak. It is associated with the divine horse, which was used by Muhammad to get to Jerusalem. I mean, not getting into the whole Muslim theology regarding the Kotel, but I will just say that the Kotel is important to the Muslim as well. And so whatever happens by the Kotel, with the Kotel, may cause troubles and conflicts. And that's exactly what happened after the Mechitza was placed in 1928 and 1929. It developed into a major uprisal with many people wounded and killed. So the question about together is not together is very relevant today as well. Two more photos of the British soldiers guarding the wall and the Jewish brigade in 1918, which made it to the wall as part of the British Army. Just take a look at the wall. We see Mount of Olives up here, which is pretty much empty. I mean, it's almost empty except of a few towers. One is the Church of Ascension. The other one is Augusta Victoria, which are very well known and visible today. But the rest is empty. I mean, you see the Mormon University is not yet built. You see that the houses of the Arab neighborhood of Atul are not yet here. And what is here is the wall. Of course, you can see the cypress trees of the Temple Mount, and you can see the western wall. You can see the Kotel, and all these houses, which are right in front of the Kotel, they are no longer there because this is the Arab Muslim neighborhood called Muqabi. And this neighborhood, which used to be almost glued to the wall, as we saw in the photos before, was entirely removed after 1967. So this is one of the most famous photo, I would say the iconic photos, which was taken when the paratroopers made it to the wall in June 7th, 1967. And the red heart down there is because June 7th, not this year, a few years later, but June 7th is my wedding anniversary. So this is a very special date for me. And this is the day when the paratroopers made it to the wall. And once again, the Jewish people were able to come to the wall and pray and leave notes. A very famous song was written, very sad, very hard words of this song. You see the English translation of it. You're welcome to read. Again, very hard, very sad, very not, how to say, I mean, there is victory, but it's very obvious how difficult that victory was. And out of the song, there are two phrases which became so well known. I mean, every Israeli knows this words. Most of us don't even realize where these words came from, but they are used on a daily basis. And these are the words in red. Some people have a heart of stone, but there are stones with a human heart. Yesh anashim im lev shel even, yesh avanim im lev zahav. I would like us to listen to this song, just one of the most classical, and the song is called HaKotel.
שפתיים קרבה ושמתי, אמרה לי תקיעות השופר חזקות הן, אבל השתיקה עוד יותר. אמרה לי ציון הר הבא שתקה לי הגמול והזכות, ומה שזהר על מצחה בין ארבעים היה ארגמן של מלכות. הכותל עזוב ועצבת, הכותל עופרת ודם. יש אנשים עם לב של אבן, יש אבנים עם לב אדם. אמר הצנחן מול הכותל, מכל המחלקתו רק אחד. אמר לי למוות אין דמות, אך יש כותל 9 מטר בלבד. אמר לי אינני דומע, ושב להשתיל מבטים. אך סבא שלי אלוהים היודע, קבור כאן בהר הזיתים. הכותל עזוב ועצבת, הכותל עופרת ודם. יש אנשים עם לב של אבן, יש אבנים עם לב אדם.
So, okay, wait, somehow lost you. Okay. Can you still see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So, it is a powerful song indeed. And literally a couple of days after not the song was written, but we got the Kotel back, and we were granted access to the Kotel. The government decided to remove the Arab Muslim neighborhood, which used to be there, blocking the way to the Kotel, and the bulldozers started working. And within 3 hours, it's incredible. I mean, this neighborhood used to be there 900 years, ever since Saladin. In 3 hours, it was gone. The area was empty. Here you can see what the Kotel looked like just a few hours after the works began. And you see here a note which we apologize with the Ministry of Religion. We apologize for the inconvenience. We are working on it, and soon everything will be better for the visitors of the Kotel. When the works were over, the archaeological project began. You can see here the southern end of the Kotel, of the western wall. Up on the right, you can see what this corner probably looked like when the temple was still up there. And this is considered to be the first interchange in history, because people could walk upstairs towards the temple and people could walk on the street down below the arch. And that arch is known as the Robinson Arch. On the photo down on the left, you can see here, you see a tree. And next to the tree, there is a donkey and a person. And that tree is right next to a big, massive stone, which is, just a little bit above the donkey and the person. This is the top of the Robinson Arch. On the right, you can see the same top of the Robinson Arch, but now you can see the archaeological excavations down below. And this is what Robinson Arch looks like today. I mean, today it is part of the Davidson Archaeological Park, and you can see how high in the air the same rock is, and how little the people are standing here on the grass lawn. We got down and down below till we reached the Second Temple period level, till we reached the street which used to be walked by our ancestors some 2,000 years ago. So this is what the Kotel Plaza looks like to date, an aerial photo. We are familiar with that photo. I'm sure you've seen it before. And maybe never thought of, well, okay, the wall is here. There was the neighborhood, which was removed in 1967. And now what? Now we have this open space. Is the only thing we can do with it is just having it as an open space? Well, you know, it's big and open, and maybe it is too open. And so after we got this open space, after the neighborhood was demolished, we had all sorts of different ideas what should be done with the space. So first of all, there was, well, it was not really an idea, but there was some sort of a hope that now when we took over the Temple Mount, maybe we can rebuild the temple, maybe smaller, not instead of the Golden Dome, but just next to it, as you see. Well, that was never accepted, and it never happened. The other suggestion was to build sort of a heritage style building. It was suggested by an Israeli architect, Gidon Cholab, and that's what it was supposed to look like. You see, the wall is on the right, and here we have really interesting structure, flat top and glass. I'm not sure what was exactly supposed to happen there, but again, that never happened. Now, Tzvi Hecker suggested that we have some like gate, triangle gate, huge, incredible, enormous, bigger than any gate ever built, the biggest structure ever built in Israel. And through that structure, through that gate, people will be approaching the wall. This never happened. Tuvia Sagiv, on the other hand, suggested that we have this open plaza, but then we will put some structure right next to the wall so to provide some shade and protection from rain, which could be a good idea. Those who've been to the Kotel, you know how hot and shiny it might be. But that never happened. Now, Isamu Noguchi, you might know his name because he's an American artist, very well known, and he is the artist who built the memorial. He suggested, this is, I think, the weirdest suggestion of all, but he suggested that we build a big black structure which will resemble the Kaaba, the holy black rock in Mecca, right in front of the Kotel. And the idea was, of course, to please the Muslims, and so then maybe this way everybody will be happy. That never happened. Then we have another suggestion, which is actually digging inside the plaza and getting all the way to the bottom and have stairs and ramps around it. So we will see the modern level and the lower level, and there will be more space for everybody. It never happened. And finally, we had the most detailed, maybe this most realistic, and probably, well, for me, the most beautiful idea, which was suggested by Moshe Safdie, a well-known, again, Jewish architect who is responsible for the plaza in front of the city hall in Jerusalem and quite a few other structures. This is what he suggested, again, sort of platforms and then stairs and more platforms and more stairs, and eventually you make it all the way to the wall. And that never happened as well. that's maybe the last suggestion. You see the wall is on the left, and then we have a big, massive synagogue. So we were supposed to have the wall separated from the synagogue, and then whoever would like to pray would enter the synagogue, and whoever wants just to take photos and place a note, or maybe do some other kind of worship which is not Orthodox Jewish one, will be able to do so. Again, that might be a good idea and solve some problems we have today. That suggestion by Avraham Yelsky was not accepted. And Eli Ilan was not dealing with the Kotel and the plaza itself. He was into creating a nice and gradual access to the Mughrabi gate. So this ramp was supposed to replace this wooden structure, which was built in 2007 as a temporary access to the mountain. And, quite often something which is temporary will be the most permanent. So as you see, we had quite a few ideas of what should we do with the space in front of the Kotel, and somehow it was decided not to decide because every suggestion would not please some politicians and some parts of the Israeli society, and as a result, we actually have something which was never planned, was never supposed to happen. We have just open space, too hot, sometimes too cold, sometimes too windy, sometimes too rainy, and nothing is done about it just because we could never decide. Yeah, so that's what it is. Again, familiar photo. There is part of the Western Wall, which is called the Small Kotel. I don't know if you've ever been there. Most people never make it there because we have the bigger Kotel. But in various occasions, for various reasons, people would visit the Small Kotel. The Small Kotel is actually a small fraction of the Western Wall, which is visible and accessible, and it is located in the Muslim quarter of the old city. And here as well, you can see that people do pray together, men and women, sort of on both sides, but yes, they do pray together. And definitely we're talking about Orthodox women, but we just don't have a mechitza here. So, well, I keep talking about, yes, praying together or not praying together. So whose Kotel this is? Back in 2006, after a large political and international pressure, a part of the wall, which is just south of the Kotel, the usual part called Kotel, was formed. The Western Wall is on the right-hand side of this photo, and then there are walls which have to do with other periods of times, and then the wooden gate through which you can access the Temple Mount is right above this one. So the distance between the Kotel, where we usually pray and leave notes, and this part of the Western Wall is only about 30 feet. That's it. But there is a wall which separates the Israel, and ever since 2006, this is the place especially bar or bat mitzvah in a non-Orthodox way, meaning that this is where a woman can put a tallis or a tefillin or read the Torah, or men and women can be together, and the whole family can celebrate bar mitzvah. So I wonder if any of you have celebrated bar or bat mitzvah here. And yes, this is called Azarat Israel, and that was supposed to solve the problem. That was supposed to be, just make everybody happy. We have the Orthodox Kotel, we have the non-Orthodox Kotel, which is here. You see, that's what it looks like. And here we even have white umbrellas, which will provide shade, even though this place is really hot because of the wooden floor rather than stone-made floor. And so this place, summertime, I mean, it's very hot by the Kotel, and here it is even warmer, but it is right next to the Kotel. So would it please everybody? Well, not really. Starting from 1988, there is an organization known as Neshot Kotel, Women of the Wall, and organization which has Orthodox, non-Orthodox, non-religious, Reformed women from all over the world. There are some men which support and participate, even though it's called the Women of the Kotel. And what these women want to achieve is full equalness, same rights as the men. Now, they don't want to get to the men's section of the Kotel. They only want to be able to access the women's section of the Kotel, but they want to be able to pray their own way. And this is not acceptable by the Orthodox community and the Orthodox politician, of course. So their demands are to have one entrance to all, to a decent area. I mean, I just spoke today to Anat Hoffman, who is the leader of Neshot Kotel. She happens to be sister of a friend of mine. And when I asked her, well, I mean, is there any compromise? The Orthodox don't want you to do what you want to do, and you're not happy with the Azarat Israel, which was supposed to be the substitute for the Kotel for you. Is there any way your long-lasting battle for being able to pray your way at the Kotel? So she said, well, yes, what we need is one entrance to all. I mean, whoever wants to go to the Western Wall, no matter if we're talking about this part or other part, should enter together, and then people will have that feeling that they're going to the Western Wall, which is the holy place. And then they can decide if they want to go to the Orthodox or the non-Orthodox part. And we want to be able to touch the Kotel, which is not the case. I mean, at Azarat Israel, you're near the Kotel, but you cannot touch the Kotel. And so that's not the same thing. On top of that, they want to be equal to men, as I said. So tefillah out loud, which is not possible today because according to the Orthodox approach, women should pray in silence because their voice should not be heard. Kol b'isha irba, that's what it's called in rabbinical approach. They want to be able to put a tallis, they want to be able to read a Torah and place a tefillin. All these things which are supposed to be done by men as far as the Orthodox community is concerned. And they will, as far as she told me today, they will keep fighting forever and ever till they get their rights, either at the Kotel or at a nearby place, but it should be equally good, equally accessible and fair. So the organization exists since 1988, and they're still fighting. And every single Rosh Chodesh, around 300 women would come to the wall, and almost every month there will be confrontation between them and the Orthodox, but they will keep fighting because this is the most important for them. This is an architecture design which was made by Michael Michael Arad. And here you see that what it was supposed to look like. We see the wooden bridge, the Mughrabi bridge, as it exists today. Below the bridge, this is the Orthodox Kotel. And then we have very nice structure with shade and trees and stairs that is supposed to be the non-Orthodox Kotel, where Ezrat Israel is, which is part of the Davidson Archaeological Park, and this is something they can live with. I mean, this is something they are willing to accept, and this is something the government is not willing to let them have. Two very special rocks carved, very special inscriptions carved in the rock of the Kotel. One of them is this one. The replica is at the corner of the south and the western walls in the Davidson Park, just below the Robinson Arch. And the original one is in the museum in Jerusalem. And this one says, Lebet Hatki'ah Lehacha, and then it's lost. So Beit Hatki'ah is the house of trumpeting, the trumpeting place. And up here, this is the southwest corner of the Temple Mount, and this is where that rock was supposed to be. And this is where the person with the trumpet would be staying, and he would blow the trumpet, he would blow the horn to let everybody know that Shabbat is approaching. And well, I think that's just an amazing example of, we have an inscription from the temple period. We know where it was, and we can read it today. I mean, these are exactly the same letters as we use today. And the other one is an inscription which is on the rock just below the Robinson Arch. You see there's this precise explanation how to find it. And what we can read here is V'ra'item v'sas livchem v'atzmotam kadeshet. Okay, you see this, your heart will rejoice and you will flourish like grass. This is from the book of Isaiah, and you see, it's not made by a king. It's just somebody who was able to stand up here, which is way too high for us to stand. So that was hundreds of years ago, and somebody wrote it down. So maybe it had to do with the period of Julian the heretic, who was about to cancel Christianity as an official faith, and he was about to let the Jews restore the temple. Or maybe it has to do with the Persian invasion, because the Jews supported the Persians against the Christians. Or maybe it has to do with the restoration of the Temple Mount in the 7th century. This or other way, it is there. And that sounds like a prophecy, or maybe a statement. And that reminds us of the fact that the Kotel is in the Jewish hands, after all. One little thing which we never pay attention to, we're so busy with our thoughts and feelings and hopes when we approach the wall, but there's actually vegetation in the walls. And that vegetation reminded me of a biblical phrase. And he spoke to the trees, King Solomon, of course, from the cedar that is in Lebanon to the moss that grows on the wall. So obviously he was not referring to the moss on the western wall, because the wall was not there in the period of King Solomon, but the moss grows on the wall. And the moss is just lost in translation, because moss is what you see down below. And these are the little green little vegetation on rocks, while moss is actually hyssop, ezov. And this is what we use to make the za'atar, the most famous spice. Anyway, lost in translation. There are quite a few different plants which are to be found on the western wall. The big bush, which is facing us as we approach the wall, is Shelvitan. That's the Hebrew name, and the English name is right here. Shelvitan can be used to provide drugs, which which are good for the respiration system. We have the golden drop here and the golden henban. I don't know how to pronounce it. In Hebrew, it's called shikaron zahov, and shikaron zahov means the golden drunkenness, because if you eat it, so it does provide some narcotic effect to it. And it's a bit less common, but still exists in the wall. The wall snapdragon. The Hebrew name is Lor Ha'ari HaSiciliani, so it came from Sicily, and probably it was brought by the Crusaders, just the seeds of it, and then it spread all over Israel. So this plant on the wall was not there before the Crusaders, but that's already like 900 years. And we even have birds nesting in the wall, like the common swift and sparrows and the pigeons. So see, wait a sec. Okay, now this is something I've heard of about a year ago, and then somehow I forgot because it sounds so unlikely. And then today, when I started preparing the presentation, I started looking for it, and here it was. So during COVID, we were vaccinating our people against COVID, and at the same time, we were vaccinating our Kotel, but it had nothing to do with COVID. It had to do with vegetation and the animals which live in the wall and damage the wall. And so it was decided to vaccinate it, or better to say fix it, but they actually used the word vaccination. So look at this.
הכותל צריך להתחסן נגד פגעי הזמן ונגד...
So he speaks of the fact that we have to vaccinate the wall because it is damaged by time creatures which live inside. So he uses a very special liquid solution of plastic. So as you can see, they use syringes which are very similar to those which were used to vaccinate the population against COVID. And of course, they use the crane to get all the way up on top. So he speaks of how important it is to vaccinate the wall, and how special, what a special feeling it is for them, the workers, to be able not just to protect the wall, but also to see it from an angle which nobody else can see. And, and the word for
Can you repeat the last 15 seconds?
sorry?
Repeat the last 15 seconds. We missed you.
Oh, okay. I said that Hebrew language is a special language, and by the root of the word, you can find the connection, the meanings connected of the word. What I'm trying to say is that the Hebrew word for vaccination, for vaccine, is chisun, and one of the words for power, for strength, is chosen. So when you do vaccination to people or to wall, so you actually make it stronger. So they did chisun and they provided chosen to the Israeli population and to the wall. So thank you all for joining me again. Now I can tell you I was a bit stressed when I started the presentation because it didn't work. So, this is one before the last presentation. I don't believe I say that, but this is just one before the last. And I wanted to make it, special. I wanted to be, special is the word. So Kotel, what can be more important and more special and more significant than the Kotel? And there's so much to say about the Kotel. And so I knew that I can make a presentation. On the other hand, when I started working on it, I realized that I was already talking about the Western Wall, when I talk about the Temple Mount and then the Western Wall tunnels. I mean, before, so I hope you enjoyed the presentation. I mean, it was the less common thing discussed regarding the wall, but I hope it added to your understanding and knowledge. So that's it. Thank you so much again.
Very informative, Julia. Something that we normally would never encounter. Thank you. I think there are some questions. You want to just go ahead and address them?
And I want to make, if you could stop sharing your screen, we can still see.
I know, that's what I was about to do that, and then somehow it didn't happen. Okay. Am I sharing now?
Yeah, you're still sharing. We can see mountains.
I have.
Here, I think I can stop. I stopped there. I fixed it. I stopped you from sharing. I used my power.
All right, great. Thank you. No, it was not even my screen. Okay, it was somebody else's screen there. Okay.
Oh.
Okay, but it was a beautiful photo. Okay, so
I was just at the Kotel this past Thursday because I was in Israel for my granddaughter's wedding.
Very nice. Very nice. All right, so let's go down the questions. I don't know if Julia's gone again.
Ilana, I don't hear you.
Julia, you can't hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay. All right. So we can go down the questions.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So the reason Everell wrote that that is the Hanukkah menorah, not the temple menorah. Yes, I know that. I placed the Hanukkah menorah because we are approaching Hanukkah, and Hanukkah is when the temple was purified and made usable again. So yes, I'm totally aware of the fact that it's a Hanukkah menorah. Okay, Alvin asked approximately what year did the Star of David became a symbol of Judaism? This is a good question, and the answer is that very, very late, because the Star of David was used as a decoration ever since at least the Talmud period. We find it all over in ancient synagogues, but it was used as a decoration, no matter how difficult that sounds, and along with lots of other decorations. The first time we may say that the Star of David is associated with Judaism and nothing else is around the 17th century, when they started placing the Star of David on tombstones in Europe. But it did not become an ultimate symbol of Judaism before the yellow patch, which was forced to be used by the Nazis. I mean, it was commonly used, but it was not an ultimate site before.
We lost you. It is not a good day for internet.
I don't remember what it means. Sorry, that's something I have to look up, but it's not BC. No. Gail asks, what is the building on the platform right next to the Western Wall? Oh, I'm not sure.
It was in the like the model, I think, that you were showing us, or rendering.
The pictures that you see from above, it does have a dome on it, but it's not the Dome of the Rock. It's just an ordinary little dome.
Well, wait a minute. Maybe I will find it. Is it before? Can you see my screen again?
Not yet. It looks like double click to enter full screen mode.
Yeah. Well, I do
There we
have
go.
it.
Yeah, we can see it. I know
You
which
can see it.
image it was. I think it was more toward the beginning.
It's Al Aqsa.
Oh, I couldn't. That would make sense. All right, Julia's frozen.
No, it's not Al Aqsa. It's just a small dome.
But wait, do you see it now, Gail?
Yeah, these ones right here. That are right in front of the tower next to the Dome of the Rock. There's
Wait. So we have the Dome of the Rock, right?
and then in front of it, towards the wall, there is a low
Oh, this little one?
domes in it.
Yeah, well, these are different structures of the Muslim quarter. There's nothing special. I mean, you know, the domes are just typical decoration. It's nothing special. Nothing I can say about it.
Thank you.
Okay, I will stop sharing again. Okay. Where were we? Okay. Are the caper bushes growing out of the wall ever trimmed? Sorry, what is trimmed? I don't know the word. Hey, Lily.
Cut.
Like cut back to be.
Cut back. No. They are just left alone. They let them leave. Also, there's Hebrew letters on the Wailing Wall. Hebrew letters on the Wailing Wall. Yes, Avril, I'm not sure what you mean. Do you mean, oh, you're talking about the photos which I shared with, when you can see that the street in front of the wall is very narrow, probably this one. Yes, today people leave notes. Back in the 18th, 19th centuries, a few people would leave notes, and lots of people would just write their names, or primarily names, sometimes the country of origin, sometimes something they would like to ask. But anyway, yes, it was very common to write on the Kotel. And then after 1967, it was all erased. The Kotel was just cleaned. By the way, I don't know, maybe it's, I'm not sure if I'm happy about it or not, but anyway, there were inscriptions and they're gone. Oh wow, Jody Abril, Toda for playing this. They used to sing it in my yeshiva. Yeah, we used to sing it in schools. Taking a donation, so yes, please consider that. The wall between the north and the southern quarter wall is made of small stones. Yes, because that was built during primarily, again, 19th century. I've mentioned that the neighborhood, which it became more popular with the invasion of 1830. And when the Egyptians took over the land, Ibrahim Pecha, who became a landlord for 10 years and actually became independent from the Ottomans. As an Egyptian, he brought a lot of Egyptian soldiers, and then the soldiers brought families, and then the families brought relatives. And the bottom line is that between 1830 to 1840, we had a big immigration of Arab Muslims into the land of Israel, and specifically Jerusalem. So that wall has to do with this period of time of 19th century. And yeah, it was just built, to make it quick so it can be used. They didn't bother about the splendor of King Herod's style. Okay. Has anybody a shift wooden structure now in use? Well, I'm not sure. Again, Gail, I'm not sure what you mean by the ancient steps. Before we had this temporary wooden bridge, the access was on top of what used to be the roofs of some of the houses of the Mughrabi neighborhood. And then there were just cracks. There were cracks. It was unstable. On the way, the Israeli Antiquity Authority wanted to make some archaeological digs. So what used to be the access to the Mughrabi bridge was removed, and the temporary bridge was placed, and then it was supposed to be replaced with something else. But again, it never happened. Harry asked, 3 question marks. Do they know where the quarry for the stones of the Kotel are from? How far from Jerusalem? How would they have been moved? Well, the quarries, actually, you cannot tell precisely because what we call the Jerusalem stone, which is the limestone for building Jerusalem in the ancient times. This type of limestone is same one in Jerusalem, around Jerusalem, and all the way south towards Hebron. So we can't tell exactly, which quarry was used to it. One of the most famous quarries is literally below the old city. It's known as Zedekiah's cave. It has the whole story to it. Anyway, it's just below the most important, next to Herod's Gate or Flowers Gate of the northern wall. So I can't tell you exactly, but this type of limestone is to be found in Jerusalem and Judean hills. How were they moved? Well, I don't have a photo here, but they would take wooden logs, place it on many logs, attach it to bulls, and the bulls will move centimeter by centimeter, and then they would be placing the last log in front of the. And we have lifts with complicated system of pulleys. I'm not good in technical stuff, but if you Google it, you will know better than me. Anyway, it is possible to have very precise descriptions both by Josephus Flavius and a Greek architect named Vitruvius, who wrote a whole book about it called Architecture. And it was, of course, tested by modern archaeologists, and yes, it works. I mean, we do know how can you possibly technically place these incredibly heavy stones one on top of the other. Well, Morris wrote that he has to leave. Thanks. Okay, Julian, I believe I heard some people say there were alphabetic letters hidden in the wall, but it was many years ago, so hidden in the wall. I'm not sure if you are here, if you can unmute yourself. I don't know. Gabriel, on my tour of the tunnels, the tour guide said the big blocks were from
just patterns, the face of the wall. Some people say they could see letters, but it might just be, people seeing things, but it was quite a few years ago, so my memory isn't crystal clear. As in seeing letters of the alphabet. I can't remember if it was English or Hebrew.
Thanks. It looks like Julia's frozen. Hopefully she heard what you said.
But I think you're right, because we all saw the letters chiseled onto the stone in the old photos. They probably are still there.
Oh, I think we lost her completely.
Oh, no, she'll be back.
All right. Oh, no, she's here.
Yes, she is. Okay.
I am back, but I lost the end of the sentence. Could you repeat, please?
Oh, that's okay. Yeah. Julian, if you could just repeat yourself.
Well, I just said that I did not hear you. So
Sure. I just needed a minute to unmute. Sorry. I was just saying, many years ago, I think I heard people say they could see letters of the alphabet in the wall. I can't remember whether it was English or Hebrew letters, but in the actual surface of the wall. So it could just be imagination. It could be people imagined, but it could be the actual letters. I don't know. But it was so long ago, my memory isn't very clear.
Yes, of course. I mean, there are actual letters. You're right. I have shown one of them, but there are a few other inscriptions. All of them, as far as I know, are Hebrew letters, and some of them just bear names of people who came to the wall and, asked God to support them. So most of them were erased. The majority of the wall were just cleaned after 67, but some of them remained. And if you have been there long ago, so very probably you could see more inscriptions than we can see today. Yeah, it's very, very much possible. Okay, and yes, Gail wrote that on the tour of the tunnels, the tour guide said that the big blocks were from the top of the hill or the bottom. Yes, that's very much possible. Again, there's no way we can tell precisely where they came from, but yeah, I mean, chances are that the bigger stones are, the closer you want them to, to originate. Sure. How did former press trumpet to touch the wall?
And what did you mean?
President Trump.
How did he touch the wall? He walked up to it and touched it.
On the news when he was in Israel, that
Right.
he was allowed to go up to the wall and say a prayer, which I'm sure he didn't do.
What's your question, though?
How did they let him do that?
Anyone can go up to the wall.
Well, not women, right?
They can go to the women's side. Yeah.
Is he in the Orthodox section of the wall?
The women can go to the women's.
Yeah, anybody can go to the wall, men and women.
Yeah, there is a separation. There is a little fence, so women can be on one side and men can be on the other side, but otherwise everybody can get to their side. Men should put something on their head, but that's it. That's the only requirement. So obviously he could do that as well. Hey, Gail, I can see that you already celebrating Hanukkah. You have quite a few Hanukkahs behind you.
That was my assignment last year. I was taking a photography class, and I had to take a photography class where I used the second curtain on my which I never even knew I had on my camera. So this was the result. Of course, it was much smaller, but when it comes behind me, it looks like it's huge.
It's pretty. It's very pretty.
I think that's
Okay.
all of them.
Yeah, I think we ran out of questions, and thank you all. I mean, guys, thank you for being so patient and for not escaping the first 10 minutes of the presentation when the internet just did not cooperate. No matter what I did, it did not cooperate.
It kept going in and out the whole time, but I think we got through it.
I think
Yeah,
we hit about 95%.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay. Well,
hiccup.
I
Definitely way more than I knew about the Kotel, so thank you.
Yeah.
Julia, I meant to send you a message. I meant to send a chat, but I sent it to an individual by mistake. Moshe Safdie designed one of the new new parts of the Peabody Essex Museum in Salem, Massachusetts. So that was quite a long time ago, maybe, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago, but I don't know if you can see it. That's, no,
Yeah.
that's not it.
I saw something.
That's the atrium. He made it look like
Okay.
sails
Yeah,
on the top
like
of it.
a boat
Yeah.
sort of.
Yeah,
I see.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
the outside of it. So that's but they have an even newer exhibit now. I mean, extension, but I don't know who designed it. I can't remember, but
I
it's
see.
pretty cool.
Well, he is the one who designed the new Yad Vashem Museum, the Holocaust Museum in Jerusalem as well.
Yeah. Oh,
And
wow.
he is an amazing architect, and it is a pity that his project was not accepted. I mean, I think the Kotel might have looked better. Yeah.
Right.
Well, it would look better than an old wooden staircase, got a ramp going up to the top.
Well, that's true as well. We have so many stairs anyway.
Julia, we got your email. Are you available tomorrow to talk?
Evening time, because tomorrow I'm touring in reality. So when I'm back, maybe after 6 p.m. Israeli time, if it
Okay.
works with.
How about
Yeah.
if I'll set up a Zoom
Okay,
and I'll email you. Great. Thank you.
sure. Welcome.
Okay.
Thank you so
Great.
much. Yeah.
Well, that was really interesting, Julia. You know, I was a little suspicious about the topic because I thought I knew everything. It turns out I knew nothing.
I have to watch it back again.
Right.
All right. So, well, that's exactly what I felt like. Hey, guys, you already know everything. But then, yeah, no, there's Jerusalem is endless, and even the Kotel is endless.
Yeah.
And tomorrow I'm going to Mount Gerizim to see the Samaritans. And
Wow.
yeah, remember there was a Zoom about it long
Yeah, I
ago.
remember.
Long ago.
Remember.
Yes.
A while ago.
Yeah,
That's so
tomorrow-
many.
Tomorrow, the real thing.
All
And
right.
then next week is a schmooze, and then after that is the final episode with
Yeah.
Julia as taking the helm. Do you want to talk about that one?
Yeah, well, you know, I was thinking about the last presentation, which should be meaningful. So I ended up with the Kotel today, which is meaningful for sure. And then since we're about to finish this Educate Israel
Season 5.
education, yeah. So I decided we should go abroad, and because Israel is small and there are actually more Jews living outside rather than in Israel. So the last and final presentation will be Jewish communities, not very far, like around the Mediterranean. We will take a cruise, okay? We will virtually get on a cruise ship, which will take us to 3 ancient special Jewish communities. The one in Saloniki, Greece, and the one in Alexandria, which used to be great and important, and it doesn't really exist as a community today, but it was so significant. And Istanbul, which is a beautiful city with a significant Jewish community to present days and ever since. So I invite you to join me on a cruise ship of the Mediterranean, chasing the Jewish communities.
The SS Julia.
Yeah, I gonna be the captain.
Oh, okay. Do you know how to steer a ship? I don't know. Less risk of
No,
COVID. on this.
I have no idea, but look, virtually, I mean, what can happen? Worst case, we will be disconnected.
Well,
All right. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Julia. Go to bed. You look
Thank
exhausted.
you. I will. Yeah, tomorrow is a lot of driving. Ilana, did you get my email? About
About what? About the museum?
No, about the VFI archaeology, the pricing.
I did, but then Steve said he already answered you, so I didn't. I didn't
Ah.
answer it.
no, that's today. We'll catch up with you tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
All right.
All right. Thanks, Julia.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Enjoy
Bye.
tomorrow. We'll see
Bye.
you in 2 weeks. Thank you so much.
Laila Tov.
Bye, Lato.
Bye, Lato. All right. Let me unpin.
Yeah. Another example of when you think you know something, you really know nothing.